Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Follow Everton. I'm Ryan, your host, and today we've got Jeff with us. Jeff, how are you?
I'm all right, mate. You?
Not too bad. So, like myself, I imagine you've been scrolling and scrolling and scrolling through Twitter, refreshing frantically on news
Yeah,
now as well. BBC Sport, the full plethora of football sources, um, and waiting for something to happen. Obviously, something has happened. It looks like Neal Maupay is the first through the door,
yep,
undergoing a medical at the moment. So the deal is a £15 million package, 3 year contract with an option for a further year. Um,
yeah,
just give us your candid initial reaction on that. Sort of, how do you feel about the move? Do you think you're happy with it?
yes. Um, I've seen so many negative reactions to this, and if he was the only signing we were making, I would understand people being negative about it. Um, but he's not the only signing we're going to make. He's a
Yeah,
piece of a jigsaw. He's going to be a good addition to the squad, and there's three main reasons for me liking this deal. Um, One, he's Premier League proven, so he will be able to come in. He's up to speed. He'll know what he's doing, and that's great. Two, the club he's coming from, and I think that's not talked about enough. I think Graham Potter's one of the best young managers in football, not just in England, just in football in general. Um, he coaches his teams really well. Um, we've all seen we've all seen the way um, Brighton have come on leaps and bounds in the last few years, and they're organised, they're disciplined, they work hard. Every player does their job.
yeah,
Um, they've got enough snide, but they've got a bit of quality as well. So he's got the character that we're looking for.
yeah.
Um, and then the third reason is I think for the price that we're paying, I think that's good value because like I've seen people saying, "Oh yeah, we haven't replaced Richarlison's goals." Okay, that's correct, fair enough. And this guy isn't going to replace Richarlison. But if you buy three players like Mopay, you've doubled you've doubled what Richarlison ever produced and more because if you bring in three players who get 7 or 8 goals, maybe 10, but probably let's say 7 or 8 goals and bring the hard work that Richarlison brought as well, then you've actually increased the overall value of the squad and you've made a profit because we got 50 plus add-ons to maybe 60 million for Richarlison. If you've got Mopay, let's say that Brighton Diaz fellow comes in. I don't know whether that's going to happen yet. Um, and then you bring in someone else. Then you've got three goals threats. They'll all chip in with goals. They all bring the work ethic, and it's about making the team better overall. It's a bit of a Moneyball approach in a way. In
Well,
that,
it's
like
and to
you
put all
know,
in one basket.
yeah, you're not putting all. This is the thing as well is you can't rely on one player in modern football to carry a team because DCL gets injured. Where's the goals coming from? But if you've got three or four, five players who can all chip in, Damari Gray, Mopai, I think DCL's nearly fit, so hopefully he will add to it. Maybe someone like a Brett Diaz. Maybe we bring a couple more in,
I add
and
something
then
there
yep,
on the point you make, obviously about having the squad and having options and being able to rotate players who maybe not in form and have 3, 4 players who can chip in 8 to 12 goals. Do you not think maybe Maxwell Cornet would have been an option then, and Dennis, if you're basing it on that, because not only are they providing the goals, but it's wide position, which is harder to find than
yes.
ultimately the goal record of Neal Maupay isn't anything particularly outstanding, and he's a central striker.
Um. Okay. Well, yeah. No, I can understand your point. Um. I'll counter that if you don't mind. So
Pleasure.
Maxwell Cornet did it for about 4 months, scored a bunch of goals, and then did nothing for 6 months, and then he's gone. And that's his only season in the Premier League. Otherwise, what he did was outside the league. Now Maupay's been here for 3 years, and in 3 years he's scored. I've seen the stats. He averaged 8.88 goals per year,
Does he take the penalties?
and no, and in the same 3 year period, Richarlison had averaged 10. So, like I said before, if he's going to bring in not quite what Richarlison does, and then you add another couple in like that, then it is a bit of a money ball approach.
Well, this is why we're in
And
place, isn't it? Because we've relied on two individuals, Richard and Calvert Lewin, and the reality is we probably need. We had goals from Gylfi Sigurdsson, we had goals from
yes,
Rodriguez, we had goals from other areas of the pitch. Last season, we became reliant on two players, and I think we've now got to find 4 or 5 players who are going to chip in with the goals out wide
yeah,
and rotational players as well. But
yeah,
I personally think it's a good signing as an individual coming in with other players in isolation.
yes,
If you're only getting Neal Maupay, he's the option. He's your backup striker. He's going to lead the line for us. I would say you're kidding me, aren't you? You know,
yeah,
this is the worst Everton forward line we've had in years as a
yeah,
collective group of players. You can't honestly sit and tell me that Neal Maupay is the answer. He's not the answer, but he's a piece of potentially the answer. And you felt today, perhaps from Frank Lampard's press conference this morning, that there are other things to come. Also,
yeah,
one thing worth mentioning, he's very stubborn about Anthony Gordon, isn't he? He
yeah,
seems to be hell bent on keeping him unless there's a seriously tantalising offer on the table.
yeah. And I think that's. Um, I'm not. I don't like defending the board generally because we all know the failings of the board, and there are many, and we could talk about that for a long, long time. But when the offer first came in for Gordon, there was an outcry of outrage saying, "Why haven't we accepted this deal?" Um, that's
Structure.
a ridiculous amount of money for a player who hasn't really produced much yet. He's potential, but he hasn't. Other than working hard, he's chipped in with a couple of assists, one direct goal, and 3 deflected goals. It's not a massive, difficult job to replace him. So for that money, it seemed, But then if you actually hear what's going on, we weren't offered the same. We weren't offered that deal. We were offered 25, 30 million up front, and then payments over the next few years or whatever. And
Yeah,
so we're right to turn it down if he's going to go. And I still think he might. I still think he might because in the end it comes down to money. If they offer us enough money up front as part of the deal that we can then go out and replace or spend the money on other areas, then fine. But if we're not getting a reasonable offer, then we carry on without him, and it's fine. He's a good player
the
in a
balls.
in a squad. He'll provide part of the problem, and this is the whole thing. Like I said, it's Moneyball. Um,
Hmm.
we need a whole overall squad to chip in. Every single player needs to chip in with a little bit and a little bit and a little bit, and then we'll be fine for the season. So
Didn't score a lot of goals last season, and did,
no,
but I am known to be a little bit more negative than some of the others. Maybe because I'm nearly.
really, no,
I've not,
no.
and I'm a bit up because I watch every single game. I've been going the games every for at home certainly for 8 years maybe, and it is draining. I'll probably say I was a positive Blue, and then I've over time, as every time you've got yourself lifted up, Ancelotti coming in and then he leaves, and you get worn down by it, and you do feel negative.
Yeah.
And so it would be easy to look at this Neal Maupay deal and say, oh, he's played for Brighton, he's not good, and Anthony Gordon and all that stuff. But with the Anthony Gordon one, I think in an ideal world, you do want to keep him. If you've got a set squad, you've got a settled team, and you don't need the money. The reality is the deal structure hasn't been right. It hasn't been 60 million. You could tell that from the way Lampard was really questioned. It was a package worth maybe 60 million, but it's like me offering to buy your headset off you. I'll give you £1 for it now. I'll give you £1 in 5 years. Well, I've offered you a package worth £2, but it's not a good deal, is it? Do you know what?
That's the whole point. Is we want, like, the package deal is actually fine in if we were in a better financial situation, then having someone that brings us an income for the next 3 or 4 years isn't necessarily a bad thing. But we can't afford to wait because we need we need improvement right now. And so to me, it's like a longer term deal doesn't work for us in our current circumstances. I just want to answer this question, Dave. As far as I'm aware, I'm not 100%, but so long as the deal is registered before 12 o'clock, the business doesn't need to be completed for him to still be eligible. So long as we've registered that he's signing for us before 12 p.m., we can finish the rest of the stuff a bit later, and he'll still be available to play. Because the other clubs have done that. You just need to put the deal paperwork in advance of that 12 o'clock deadline, and then you've got a certain amount of time to complete everything, and he'll still be eligible. So I just wanted to answer that because obviously that's a question a lot of people will have.
It's Everton Road, friend of the show, has said it. Late comment, Jeff, if you can bring that one for us.
Which one's that? Sorry.
This one here from our friend Rose. She says he won't play tomorrow, will he? And obviously you've answered that question. So hopefully they've got the paperwork done before 12. She alludes to his goal record, but Jeff, isn't that a good point? Because they've been heavily criticised, Brighton, for not scoring enough goals, despite all the other good things they do. And Pay is one who has been criticised for not having a genuine output at this level.
Yeah, no, and that is true. But then the one thing I will say to that is, where did they finish last year?
Why?
Because it was miles clear of us. They've been a better team than us for the last 2 seasons.
Okay,
and maybe their output isn't as good as it could be, but their output was still good enough. And that's the whole point. Is we're not trying to compete with Manchester City and Liverpool. We're trying to compete with all of the teams around us, probably in the bottom half of the league. And so his output isn't the very, very best. Of course, it's not the very, very best. But our best striker last year scored 10. And that was including 4 penalties. That was our best striker. And the next one after that scored 5, and I think that was Demarai Gray.
I think his goal will improve. I think it's inevitable because I think he will. From what I've seen this season so far, we have created chances, we just haven't finished them off. Quite wasteful. I do hope he can improve that aspect of it. One thing that I do worry about is maybe he's not a physical target man, and we've bought a lot of players for crossing the ball. But then again, as a lot of people have alluded to here, he is a nasty sort of snide player. He presses well, and I think that will be something completely different to enjoy.
Yeah.
As our friend Everton say, the thing I was saying before, Jeff, maybe about being a bit negative, was I'm starting to get to the point where I was thinking, no one's coming in, and I don't really think there's going to be bad teams in the league this year, because I think I think they've got a good manager, and I think they've got a decent squad. I think Forest have bought really well, and Bournemouth are always a pain in the backside. So, and the likes of Newcastle, who were at the bottom last season, they're making ridiculous signings. Bear with me 1 second, if that's okay. Ridiculous, to bring in Isaac. So really high level players.
Yeah.
So where are the bad teams? We're relying on a team like Southampton to go on a really bad run, aren't we? Really, one like that, and Leicester to go on a really bad run, because I don't know where these teams are. The standard of the league is getting stronger every year, because the worse the teams are able to recruit.
Yeah. I would say that um, the one thing I will say, okay, um, why did we finish 16th last year?
Okay, yeah,
Genuine question. Why did we
I
finish 16th?
didn't score enough goals, but I'd say it was injuries, individual errors, and being disorganised from set pieces.
Right. We couldn't defend. We had a midfield like the Grand Canyon. And so we relied on two players, one of whom got injured, to get us enough goals to win enough games to keep us in the league. But basically, we couldn't play football. We couldn't pass a ball to save our life. We couldn't defend a set piece to save our life. So we had fundamental problems.
When you
Fundamental problems. But, and this is where I'm going with this, we didn't suffer from a lack of actual quality. We suffered from a lack of team team a teamwork standard. So if you look at what we've done in this summer, we've brought in leaders who will command our backline. We're bringing in midfielders, or we've got some at the moment who are grafters, physical, strong. They're not going to get bullied. They're not going to go disappearing. Um, and so fixing the fundamentals of the team means we concede less goals. If we concede less goals, we're in every single game. And we've seen already, even without a striker, we've been in every single game.
yeah,
Like, we've had chances to get results in each of the games. And you can say, you can question the standard of the opponent, but we've been in every single game because the fundamentals of our team are there now. Teamwork, organization, set pieces, defending. We've improved so many of that things. Um, so if we add the goals to that, then we're competitive in every game we play.
the group of players
And
the goals.
sorry,
Well, there's a group of players who can provide goals, and not just an individual who
yeah,
every worked up about. Really, the reality is, Jeff, I think you've spoken so much sense. Would like you if you could save that positivity and that overall on that with Cam. Because
your
I think
signal's ropey as a bugger. By the way, I don't know if everyone can hear you all right.
I can hear you fine.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering if everyone else can hear you all right. Um, but yeah, so like I think that I like the way that we've, even though I don't like the pace at which we've done business. I wanted all these players in weeks ago. We all did, and that's fine. It hasn't worked out that way for various reasons, and some of it club, some of it financial, some of it just the difficulty of trying to get deals done, whatever it is. And people are saying, "Oh, we're already falling behind," and etc., etc., and you
Well,
know,
we went down by 2 points because we hadn't signed a striker.
yeah,
I mean, it's very
right.
obnoxious.
So, but the thing is that we didn't win a game from the end of September until January. I think we. Oh, did we win one game? So we went like four and a half months without winning more than, I think it was about 7 points. I think it was about 7 points. I think we got one
Okay.
win and 6 or 7 points. We got one win and about three or four draws from September to October. So we've got time to get enough points to stay in this league easily. And getting the business right, getting everything sorted, getting all of our business in place, and getting us to be a functional, well organized, hard to beat team that creates chances, because we did create chances in all. Well, I think we were fourth. We're fourth in the league this season for chances created. We just haven't had the finishing touch. So, like I said,
Five.
it's annoying that like things haven't worked out quite so far. But there's plenty of reason to be optimistic, because the fundamentals are being put in place to make us a consistently better team. And we've got time to catch up, even if we don't win the first few games or whatever it is. And like when you say teams have signed really well, like I watched that game against Nottingham Forest. Like, I don't care if they've signed a few good players. They didn't look that great.
No, well,
I've
I think
I've
that's a bit
watched plenty of
unfair,
the
Jeff.
league so far.
I think
I
that's a
haven't
bit
seen
unfair.
anyone that's scary. Like, I
You've
haven't seen anyone that's like amazing.
got to give
I
them a
think
chance
every team looks
themselves.
beatable. Sorry.
You've got to give I mean, the Forest ones like Morgan Gibbs White, I'd snap your hand off for him. I think you've got to give them an opportunity to bed in first before you
Yeah,
write them off. But I think they on paper they bought well. I do want to steer you in the direction, because I think some of the stuff you're talking about would be great for our preview later. Obviously, you can go
yeah,
into a lot more detail if you're on that. I don't know, are you joining Yandalf for that at 6:30?
yeah.
And everyone else, the stream has been scheduled on a YouTube channel, so subscribe right now and turn the notification bell on. I'm Ryan, I'm the channel admin, and I've got lovely Jeff with me today. You'll know Jeff is very active on Twitter Spaces, and he's on most of our videos these days here.
I'm just far
He's
too gobby for my own good.
We'll look through a couple of the comments now that are related to Maupay, if that's okay, Jeff, and then I'll
Yeah,
ask you about Dele Alli deal and the Gbamin one before we wrap things up.
yeah. No, Craig, I don't think he should start. It doesn't make sense to start him. I'd be surprised if he's even in the squad, to be honest. But
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Let's be honest. Let's just whiz through these. Everything Everton says he's a grafter. He agrees with you, Jeff.
yeah, and he's
Dave
bit of a snide as well.
Dave says when all is said and done, we need a nuisance. I think you could definitely describe him as a nuisance. I don't know whether he comes across as having a bit of an attitude, but as long as he's tenacious and has a willingness to win and be competitive, I like that.
Our favourite player of the last few years
Afternoon,
was a
Nicky.
bit of an arse and had a bit of a grumpy attitude, and everyone loved him. So I don't see why that would be a problem. It's a plus to me.
I think Andrew's referring to Alex Iwobi, saying he's a fantastic player. I think he's taken time to be put in his own position. Rose agrees. She says 8 to 10 goals from Maupay. We'd be happy with that, wouldn't we? 8 to 10 goals a season, I
Oh
think.
yeah, absolutely.
Chips in. Can
Yeah,
he play on the left? Or is he just a
yeah,
central right? Yeah, he can play across the front if needed.
yeah. Because
He's a
you
bit
could
small,
ideally
isn't
see
he?
him, because he's not a big tall lad. So you could ideally see him playing in behind a striker, in a way. And I know it sounds like a bit of an out there one, but you could see him being the replacement for Dele Alli.
In a 3-5-2 sort of formation.
Yeah, yeah, you could see him fitting in behind um, behind DCL as a mobile in behind, causing a bit of grief, pressuring the defence. You know, that kind of a player.
This is from Toothy. This is for you, Jeff.
Yes, it is. Yes, and we won't say that out loud on a YouTube channel, but I stand by my point.
Bob, our friend, is saying if Maupay scores like Che Adams has done recently, we were screwed for a Premier League proven striker, 15 million. We need to wake up and
And
vote.
this goes back to the point of a lot of our fans' complaints when we get linked with a player. The instant reaction is, "Oh, shoot him." You know, that's literally as soon as the name's linked, "Oh, you shoot him," and then my instant response to that is, "We're not very good."
Yeah, but we have to be a
We're
bit more ambitious. I mean,
No, no,
some
but
of
the
these
thing is
players.
that like if we literally have to put this into realistic terms, we survived by the skin of our teeth, and we're not good. We
I think,
weren't
Jeff,
good.
what you've got to
So we
remember is
have to rebuild, and rebuilding takes time, and you have to put the pieces in place, and then like stabilize our position in the league, hopefully get a little bit better, and each year add more players,
but
and improve the overall quality.
there's still that level of expectation, the size of the club, the fan base, the history, the tradition, the way we do things, the style of football, and the fact we have up until, obviously you've seen us be successful, I haven't. But even sort of the Moyes era, Europe, Martinez, Europe, who was still there or thereabouts, playing some decent football there,
Yeah,
a lot of the time. We've had world class managers, Ancelotti. We've had a squad of stars, really. You'd say Andre Gomez, Sigurdsson, James, Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin, Yerry Mina. These are big name players. So it's understandable that when we're getting a link with a Maupay or a Che Adams, initially I'm thinking, oh, for God's sake. But I think you're right. There's the balance between where we are right now, where can we get to, where do we want to be? I personally think it's a case of let's get to the new stadium in one piece and go from there.
bingo.
So I'm now going to ask you if that's okay about Dele Alli, who's joined Besiktas on a season-long loan.
Okay.
It's become quite clear to me since the Lampard interview that he didn't say this before he left, but it came across like he had some personal issues. Dele, he had some difficulty settling, difficulty in training. The way because Lampard said something like, "I didn't know him before he joined," which to me I read it as if to say, "I didn't know he was going to be a poor trainer. I didn't know he was not going to put the effort in." I would say to that, slightly delusional. I mean, if Jose Mourinho, a world class, renowned coach, spotted it, why were you not taking the advice of people who've tried to get the best out of him and thought, okay, halfway through a season in a relegation battle, this player who's not done anything for 2 years is going to come and suddenly sort himself out. For me, that was a little bit naive. I don't know how much Lampard had to do with the deal. He said he didn't, he was offered it late in the window. They were working on it. Some of the stuff we're up to at the moment is a bit bizarre. As Rose has alluded to earlier, saying Lampard's considering Diaz, but we're already in talks with Blackburn. Surely you want the manager to be on side of a player before that. But anyway, that's a separate issue. Um, the situation with Dele Alli, clearly, not the best trainer, not really the best professional, you could say. I also think, in my opinion, we never played him in his best position, which is as a number 10 or as a second striker. So I think we've signed a player for a specific position, not actually ever given him a go in that position. He's been stuck left wing. He's been very deep as a number 6, 8 sort of position. And I think that's not Dele Alli. Dele Alli would have been good. I think, in theory, playing off Calvert-Lewin, really close to him, linking up with him, slipping him in behind, playing off the flick-ons. And I think we've effed up. I think we've really effed up because we bought him in the wrong time during, where we couldn't really take a risk on individuals like Patterson, and then eventually he got injured. Same with Dele. And we've now got to the point where we've changed the system completely and he doesn't have a place for it. So in my opinion, the deal, it's a shame that
Yep.
it hasn't worked out, but I've given the mitigating reasons there. But in terms of, if you look at it now, and we're playing a 5-2-3, a 5-2-2, 5-2-3. Yeah, he doesn't fit in there. He doesn't fit in there,
Yeah.
Jeff. So we've saved ourselves 10 million quid. We're apparently paying some of his wages still. We're getting a 1.8 million loan fee. That doesn't make sense to me. I would have just said pay his wages. If you want him, it's 6 million, John, 8 in the summer. So I'm not 100% sure on the deal, but ultimately to save some money,
There's a fan
okay,
there's financial stuff behind that. The way the deal's been done is clearly it's been done to favour us and continue cutting Tottenham out of the deal
yeah.
because we're not selling him. Any loan fee just comes to us because it's income, so it
Why
doesn't
didn't
have
we
to
owe
go.
Spurs money?
Sorry,
We didn't owe Spurs any money, did we, until we play him anyway, though?
only if we sell him.
Oh, if we sell him.
If we sell him, they get a percentage of a fee. So by loaning him out, we get a loan fee and a
It's
percentage
all
of his
stable,
wages.
though, really.
So it's all a bit dodgy. But going
It's
going
all
back
down
to the
to
initial point,
it, Steph.
um, he came in literally the day before the window shut, and he brought in two players on loan, um, who basically can pass the football, which is something we can't do. So we took a punt on two players on a loan deal, to try and get us some control of the football because as he's watching from outside and watching us play, we
He
couldn't
didn't
hold the
really
ball
play
for
him.
more. We could no, I know, but we couldn't hold the ball for more than 2 or 3 minutes. Um,
And he only
and
played
then
him.
I think once he actually got into the club and saw the overall standard of all of the players,
Yeah.
I think he just like pretty much got scared quite quickly. Because I mean, Dele Alli wasn't fit, so he wasn't ready to be starting games when he first arrived. Um, so he
In,
was always going to get bits and pieces. But I think overall, I think once actually Lampard got there and saw the standard or the lack of standard
yeah.
of some of the players, I think that he fairly quick. I think obviously the horror show at Spurs was the final nail, and it was like I'm going to get relegated doing this. I'm going to have to go pragmatic, just sit deep, defend for our lives, try and nick something, get a few results, hold on to them as best we can, and survive. Because
Right.
if I start trying to play any kind of an expansive game, our defense is going to crumble like it's just going to crumble, and we're just going to keep shipping goals, and we can't
Mm.
play that way. And so therefore Dele Alli became surplus because we couldn't risk trying to play a more expansive style of football without leaving ourselves massively exposed. And so I think it was just a case of a combination of him not necessarily being fit enough to be starting games, but also just how bad Everton were.
And it didn't
And
help.
that's why. Go on.
Didn't help that Van der Beek got injured, and I think that
No.
didn't help because you look at that and think, well, you've got Richarlison, Van der Beek, Dele Alli. You could try
Yeah.
and play a passing style of football, but ultimately he's had to do that to try and be more pragmatic. So, I mean, it didn't help that he played him out of position. He didn't play that
No.
well in any apart from against Palace, but I don't think that helped him. But you're right, difficult to blood a player who's struggling. I'm getting criticised for this, but I do still think it was a bit naive to expect him to reach high levels in a struggling team when he couldn't cut it in a side like Tottenham. That was really, really good team. It was ambitious to think he was going to turn it around. And
Yeah, but like I said, it's a punt. I just think it was a punt. And I think the way the deal was structured was in the certain knowledge that it was a punt, that if it didn't work out, we could get rid without it costing us a lot of money. So it was literally just a late in the window. Let's add a couple of players who can hopefully add something to this midfield to make us a little bit more creative or a little bit more in control of the football. And it didn't quite work out, and that whether that's a bit of luck or whatever, but it's hard to judge him saying he's naive. He literally walked in the door the day before those two transfer deals were done. So it was lastminute.com, and he didn't have time to actually bring any players in. So it
on
was a
whose
punt. It was a punt that didn't work, basically.
fault is that? That it was a lastminute.com.
Oh, the owner and the chairman, definitely.
Exactly. So
because they should have sacked they should have sacked. I mean, they should never have bloody hired the horrible, disgusting cop-eye person to be our manager in the first place. But once he was here and failing, he should have been sacked ages ago. So,
I don't want to get into the Rafa debate, but he had
no,
a lot of it wasn't backed in the same way as previous managers financially. I mean, I don't want to go into that too much. I mean, he wasn't
no,
the right. It was a complete failure, but there's a lot of mitigating things, as you see with Lampard now. It's almost like
yeah,
a repeat of the injuries and the lack of signing. But obviously, Lampard himself said Dele Alli hasn't worked out here. We've discussed why. We've gone into the ins and outs of why he was brought in. I appreciate your comments, guys. Make sure you keep them coming for a little bit longer. We're going to be on here for another 5 minutes or so. Jeff, ultimately, though, Lampard said it's not worked out. He's gone to
yeah.
Besiktas, left the door open for him to come back to Everton. But do you think it was the right thing to do now at this stage to get rid of him, to save the 10 million, to cover some of the wages if he's not going to be playing, if he's not going to reach that level? Because the way I
Yeah,
looked at it, would you sign Dele Alli for 10 million now on a 1.5 year deal at 100 grand a week on
no,
what you? Well, there you go then. So
no,
we're cutting our losses. We're going to try and recuperate some of the money.
yeah.
Why have we had a buy option in then?
Uh, what? Why is there a buy option in the deal?
Why aren't we just loaning and asking for like a 3 million loan fee each season? 2 year loan.
Because it's a case of getting what we could. I think it was just a case of getting what we could to just save as much of the wages as we could, realistically, because no, we're not.
We are if we
Getting
sign any more players, Jeff. That's all
sorry.
right. If we don't sign any more players, I think we'll overachieve.
I
If we don't,
know, but it's one of those. I keep saying this. It's like, oh, if we don't sign these players, we are going to. We're going to sign these players. So
Lampard was very bullish today in his press conference about players. He was
yeah,
absolutely certain that there was, because he was being really pushed, saying, "Are you going to be happy if we don't sign anyone?" He was saying, "Well, we are." So we just have to have a bit of faith. Jeff, as your ways before we wrap up, there's 72 people watching. Any message to the Blues in the comments and watching live or watching back?
what from me?
Yeah,
Um, be brave and keep the faith because this is going to be a stressful week. But the long-term future of the club is more important than the short-term, immediate, the next week. Like, we get the business right, we will have fixed so many of the wrongs from the last few years, all the mistakes that have been made financially, player selection, manager selection, and all the rest of it. It's a big job to turn this club around. But if we finish this window in the manner that I think we will, we'll have gone a long way towards turning around the mistakes of the past and putting ourselves on the right path towards where we want to be going forward. How's
appreciate it.
that?
Nearly 80 people watching. I would ask you
Nice one.
quickly already subscribe to Follow Everton, please hit the subscribe button now and below. And also like the video if you're watching on YouTube. I know a lot of people also watch on Facebook. Just like it for us. It helps us with the positioning of the video in the algorithm. We're nearly at 1,400 subscribers, which is really good. So
Yeah,
aiming
nice one.
good and then
Thanks,
beyond.
everyone.
So also we're doing another video tonight. I'm not going to be on there. It's Yandelf, everyone's favourite Viking and poet, at around 6:30, and I believe Jeff and Dan are going to be on that video. So your favourite pub trio will be there. I'll stick to the Mabsy and Basil crew for the next video, possibly the match reaction tomorrow afternoon after Brentford. So yeah, join us for the match preview at 6:30 tonight. Jeff, before we wrap things up, I'd just like to ask you a little bit about the Gbamin deal. Obviously, another player signed for big money, took an injury, out for 18 months with various things. And even then, you feel frustrated because you look at him and think he's a tall lad, strong, athletic. He can clearly move and got a bit of mobility about him. Why has it not worked out for him here?
Um, God, realistically,
Hi, Kevin.
mistakes. He was brought in. He was played when he was injured by Marco Silva when he was told not to play him, and he got an injury. Um, in the first game, he literally pulled up lame in the first game. He got an injury. He was out for a while, and then he come back in, and he got an even more serious injury. He literally stripped the muscle uh, off his thigh. Is literally his whole thigh muscle became detached from the bone. So it was a career ender, and so some of those things you just don't come back. Not a Premier League level, and I think going down that level, he might be able to get a career. Um, but I don't think he's physically capable of this league anymore, and that's just this bad luck, mismanagement, the mistakes of the past, and in the end, it's one of those where we can sit here and rake over the coals of past mistakes like all day, every day for months, but it doesn't change facts. Like,
No, stop is
and realistically, we just have to move on. We have to just put the mistakes behind us. Get rid of these players as best we can. If it's a loan fee, part of his wages paid. Do the best we can to save as much money until these players are gone, and we move forward.
but it's unfortunate because a lot of my negativity stems from the fact that at the end of the Martinez era, we bought a lot of players, as you say, the likes of Sandro Ramirez, Cuckoo Martina, Ashley Williams. The list goes on. Schneiderlin, holding the players too long, like Morales, and just a lot and lot of signings. And I was getting to the point where there was 10 incomings and 10 outgoings every summer of flops. And even under Marco Silva Marcel Brands, you're naming other players: Moise Keane, flop; Gbamin, flop; Alex
Yeah.
Iwobi wasn't what we needed in the wide positions. So flop after flop after flop after flop. You can argue far more flops than actual success stories constantly. And we've got to get to that point where the only players we're bringing in are because we're completely assured of them and not to plug gaps. But it
Kind of feels
is
almost like we've gone back to a sort of David Moyes mentality of of being much more careful with who we buy, being more careful who we bringing in players for a specific reason to fit a specific system, playing in a more strict, disciplined way, keeping clean sheets as the first order of business. Probably not going to play massively exciting football, but sometimes you just have to go back to move forward. So,
and a few youngsters like Onana. I mean, good luck to Gbamin in Turkey. He's going to be
mm,
on a in Turkey. We don't know the ins and outs of that deal at the moment in terms of the fee, but it is expected to be a loan.
yeah.
So that's all really. I mean, interesting. Cenk Toast, Dele Alli is the front two for Besiktas. Good luck with that. Uh, knowing our luck, hit treble figures or something this season combined. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Jeff, as always.
No
On all
props.
viewers, there's over 70 still watching. If you only just joining in this video, you can always watch it back from the start on YouTube. We did talk about Maupay at the start. And join us at 6 to preview Everton versus Brentford with our host, Yandalf. Be sure to like and subscribe. Take care now. Thanks, Jeff.
Cheers, bye, mate. Catch you later.
Catch you later.